Never compromise your purpose for approval. One of the biggest mistakes men make in relationships is trading in their purpose for approval. Too many men abandon the mission they were created for just to gain acceptance, attention, or validation from a woman. And when you give up your purpose, you don't just lose direction, you lose respect. Because deep down, no woman wants a man who abandons his assignment for her approval. She may think she does, she may say she does, but when you put her on the pedestal above your purpose, she loses trust in your ability to lead. Let's be clear. Your purpose is the reason you wake up in the morning. It's the mission God placed in your life. It's the thing that gives meaning to your work, your grind, your habits, your sacrifices. When you put that down, you're not just disappointing yourself, you're walking away from the very thing that makes you valuable. And here's the truth. Women are attracted to strength, to focus, to drive. They respect men who are locked in on a vision and refuse to be shaken by distraction. But when you compromise your purpose to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, or to hold on to attention, you send a message: my mission isn't important enough. Your approval means more than my assignment. And over time, that erodes respect. Men think if they bend enough, if they give up enough, if they make their life revolve around someone else, they'll gain more love. But love built on compromise is weak love. Real love requires respect. And respect comes when you stand firm in your values, your goals, your discipline, your vision. It comes when you say, I love you, but I will not abandon the man I'm becoming for temporary comfort. It comes when you draw the line and make it clear your mission is non-negotiable. Now, does this mean you ignore the relationship? Of course not. Does this mean you become selfish and careless? No. What it means is that you refuse to let any relationship pull you away from the foundation of who you are. If your purpose is your anchor, then everything else, including your relationship, has stability. If you abandon that anchor, everything else drifts into chaos. Think about it. When you give up your vision, you're left empty. And that emptiness turns into resentment. You start to feel frustrated. You start to feel unfulfilled. And resentment destroys relationships faster than almost anything else. That's why so many men end up bitter, not because they didn't love enough, but because they didn't honor their own calling enough. They thought pleasing someone else would bring peace, but it brought frustration instead. A man on purpose is attractive. A man off purpose is fragile. A man on purpose creates direction, security, and momentum. A man off purpose creates confusion, insecurity, and stagnation. And here's what you have to understand. No relationship thrives when the man loses his mission. You were built to lead, not to drift. You were built to walk in discipline, not to bow to distraction. You were built to serve your assignment first, because when you're on fire for your purpose, that fire spills into everything else you touch. So never, under any circumstance, trade in your mission for attention. If she loves you, she will support your pursuit. If she respects you, she will celebrate your growth. If she sees your value, she will not try to pull you away from what makes you strong. And if she can't handle that, then you've got your answer, because no relationship is worth the destruction of your destiny. The truth is, approval is temporary, but purpose is eternal. Approval fades with emotions, with circumstances, with moods. One day you're loved, the next you're criticized. One day you're celebrated, the next you're questioned. If you build your identity on approval, you'll live on shaky ground. But if you build it on purpose, you'll be unshakable. Purpose gives you direction when everything else feels uncertain. Purpose keeps you moving when others doubt you. Purpose is the anchor that makes sure you don't drift into mediocrity. Never compromise your purpose for approval, because if you do, you lose the very thing that made you valuable in the first place. Hold firm, stand tall, stay locked in on your mission. Because when you walk in your purpose, you don't just gain respect, you gain peace. You don't just gain love, you gain alignment. You don't just gain attention, you gain legacy. And that is something no amount of approval could ever replace. Never beg for love or validation. One of the most destructive habits men fall into is begging for love, attention, or validation from a woman. The moment you start begging, you lose your strength, you lose your confidence. You lose the very presence that made you attractive in the first place. A man who begs is a man who forgets his worth. And when you forget your worth, you put yourself in a position to be used, disrespected, and discarded. Let's get this straight. Love is not something you beg for, it's something you inspire through who you are. Respect is not something you demand, it's something you earn by the way you carry yourself. But the moment you start chasing after it, the moment you start trying to prove your value to someone who doesn't see it, you've already lost the game. Because love that has to be begged for isn't love at all, it's control. It's manipulation, and it will never satisfy your soul. Too many men fall into this trap because they confuse kindness with weakness. They think if they keep giving, if they keep bending, if they keep overcompensating, they'll be loved more. But in reality, the more you give away your dignity in exchange for scraps of attention, the less respect you command. You might get temporary affection, you might get moments of acknowledgement, but deep down you know it's not real. It's a transaction, not a connection. Begging for validation creates dependency. You start relying on someone else's approval for your sense of identity. You start waiting for her text, her call, her compliment, her attention to feel like a man. And the danger is this: if your identity depends on her, then your strength collapses the moment she withholds it. That's not love, that's slavery. You've chained your worth to someone else's opinion, and those chains will keep you stuck. A real man understands that his validation comes from within. It comes from his purpose, his discipline, his vision, his progress. It comes from the sweat he puts into his goals, the character he builds in private, the consistency he practices every single day. When you know who you are, you don't need anyone else to remind you. When you respect yourself, you won't tolerate being disrespected. When you love yourself enough to grow, you won't settle for half-hearted love from anyone else. Now let's talk about love itself. Love is not something that's meant to be forced. It's meant to flow. If someone truly loves you, you won't have to beg them to show it. You won't have to chase them down, constantly remind them, or lower your standards to keep them around. Real love sees you. Real love values you. Real love respects you. If you have to beg for it, it's not real. And if it's not real, it will only drain you. Here's the truth. Begging doesn't create closeness, it creates distance. The more you beg, the more unattractive you become. Not because kindness is unattractive, but because desperation is. Desperation repels. Desperation suffocates. Desperation communicates, I don't believe I'm enough on my own, so I need you to complete me. And no woman truly wants that. She may tolerate it for a while, but eventually she'll lose respect. Instead of begging, you need to stand. Stand in your worth. Stand in your values. Stand in your purpose. A man who knows who he is doesn't have to chase love. Love finds him. He doesn't have to demand validation. His presence commands respect. He doesn't have to beg for attention. His focus on growth and excellence naturally draws it. Think about it. When you're busy chasing validation, you're distracted from building yourself. You waste time waiting for her approval instead of working on your mission. You waste energy worrying about what she thinks instead of investing it in who you're becoming. And here's the irony: when you stop begging, when you stop chasing, when you start locking in on your purpose, that's when you become magnetic. Because confidence is attractive. Discipline is attractive. Self-respect is attractive. Men who beg lose themselves. Men who stand attract what they deserve. If she doesn't see your value, move on. If she doesn't respect your presence, walk away. Because the worst thing you can do is trade your dignity for the illusion of love. The right woman won't need you to beg. She'll love you because of who you are, not because of what you can beg her to give. Let me say this clearly. Begging weakens you, but boundaries strengthen you. If you respect yourself enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't value you, you'll always maintain your power. If you demand nothing but carry yourself with integrity, you'll attract everything you need. That's the paradox. Stop chasing, and what's meant for you will come. Stop begging, and you'll find relationships built on real respect and real love. So, never beg for love. Never beg for validation. Stand tall. Respect yourself enough to know when to stay and when to walk away. Because a man who knows his worth will never have to beg. He'll simply attract the love that matches his strength, his purpose, and his destiny. Never lose control of your emotions. One of the most important things that separates strong men from weak men is emotional control. The way you handle your emotions, especially around women, will determine the level of respect you receive. Let me tell you something straight. The moment you let anger, insecurity, jealousy, or fear control you, you hand over your power. And once your power is gone, so is your ability to lead, influence, and inspire. Now, don't get it twisted. Having emotions doesn't make you weak. Every man feels anger, frustration, sadness, or insecurity at times. That's human. But weakness shows up when you let those emotions dictate your actions. When you lash out in rage, when you break down over minor conflicts, when you spiral into jealousy or clinginess, you show that you don't control yourself. And if you don't control yourself, how can you expect a woman to respect you, trust you, or follow your leadership? Women are not looking for a man who is emotionless. They are looking for a man who is stable. Emotional stability is attractive because it communicates strength, consistency, and safety. A woman wants to know that when life gets hard, you won't fall apart. She wants to know that when she has her emotional storms, you won't get swept away in them. You'll remain calm, steady, and grounded. Think about it. If every argument leads you to shout, slam doors, or say things you can't take back, what kind of foundation are you building? If every small disagreement makes you insecure, jealous, or controlling, what message are you sending? You're telling her that your emotions run you, not the other way around. And that will always create distance instead of closeness. A man who loses control of his emotions quickly becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability, when rooted in immaturity, creates instability. Nobody feels safe around instability. She can't respect you if she doesn't feel secure with you. And when respect is gone, attraction follows. Let's go deeper. Emotional control isn't about pretending you don't feel anything, it's about mastering the response. Anger is natural, but discipline is choosing patience instead of violence. Jealousy is natural, but wisdom is communicating clearly instead of accusing blindly. Fear is natural, but courage is taking action anyway. The power lies not in suppressing emotions, but in channeling them. Every emotion is energy. Anger can destroy, or it can fuel your determination to grow. Sadness can crush you, or it can remind you to appreciate what really matters. Even jealousy can teach you, it can reveal your insecurities, giving you the chance to work on them instead of projecting them. The difference is whether you're reacting out of impulse or responding with intention. When you lose control of your emotions, you also lose control of your decisions. You might say things you regret, do things that sabotage your relationship, or make choices that damage your future. How many men have ruined good relationships, lost opportunities, or even destroyed their reputations because they couldn't keep their emotions in check? It's not the emotion itself that destroys you, it's the lack of discipline. Now let's talk about arguments with women. Relationships will have disagreements. That's normal. But how you respond during those moments defines the dynamic. If she raises her voice and you raise yours louder, if she tests your patience and you explode, you've just lost. Not because she won the argument, but because you proved that your emotions control you. A wise man doesn't match chaos with chaos. He steadies the environment. He listens, he processes, and he responds with clarity. That's leadership. Here's a truth most men miss. Women will test you emotionally, not because they want to destroy you, but because they want to see if you're as stable as you claim. Life will test you. Stress will test you. Challenges will test you. If every test breaks you, then you're not built to lead. But if you can stand firm, if you can remain calm in the storm, if you can keep your emotions aligned with your values, you become unshakable. Think about the greatest men throughout history. Leaders, visionaries, warriors. They weren't fearless. They felt the same emotions everyone else feels. The difference is they mastered their emotions instead of letting their emotions master them. That's what made people follow them. That's what made women respect them. That's what made them men of influence. So how do you develop emotional control? It starts with awareness. Pay attention to your triggers. Notice when you feel anger rising, when jealousy creeps in, when fear starts whispering. Don't ignore it, acknowledge it, then choose your response. Breathe before you speak. Step back before you act. Ask yourself, is this reaction going to bring me closer to the man I want to be or further away? Next, you need discipline. Discipline in your daily life creates discipline in your emotions. If you can control your habits, your routines, your focus, you'll also learn to control your reactions. A man who can't control his diet, his schedule, or his work ethic will struggle to control his temper. But the man who practices discipline in small things builds the strength to master the bigger things. Finally, build purpose. A man with no mission gets lost in emotions because he has nothing bigger to channel them into. But a man with vision, with goals, with drive, he knows where to direct that energy. Anger becomes fuel for his grind. Sadness becomes motivation for his growth. Purpose transforms emotions into power. Never lose control of your emotions. Because when you do, you hand over your authority. But when you master your emotions, you gain respect, influence, and strength. Women respect men who stay grounded. They trust men who remain steady. They follow men who lead with calmness and clarity. Be that man, the one who feels but doesn't fold, the one who loves but doesn't beg, the one who faces storms but never loses his center. Because a man who controls his emotions doesn't just win with women, he wins in life. Never neglect your purpose. A man without purpose is like a ship without a compass. It doesn't matter how strong the ship is, how new the sails are, or how beautiful the design might look without direction. It will drift endlessly, tossed by the winds, and eventually crash into the rocks. That's exactly what happens to men who neglect their purpose. And when it comes to relationships with women, this mistake is fatal. Because the moment you put her at the center of your life instead of your mission, you not only lose her respect, you lose yourself. Women are not designed to be your purpose. They are designed to walk with you while you pursue your purpose. The relationship should complement your mission, not replace it. When a man builds his entire identity around a woman, he becomes dependent. His sense of worth rises and falls with her attention, her affection, and her approval. That kind of man is not a leader, he's a follower. And no woman truly respects a man who abandons his vision for her. Now, don't misunderstand. This relationships and love are powerful, and they deserve your energy. But energy must be balanced. If you spend more time chasing her than chasing your goals, you are neglecting the very thing that gives you strength, respect, and attraction. Purpose is magnetic. It pulls people toward you. It commands admiration without you begging for it. And when you neglect that, you strip yourself of the very essence that makes you valuable as a man. Think about this. When you were single and focused on your grind, you were building, growing, and becoming more. That energy is what attracted her to you in the first place. But the moment you let go of that fire, the moment you start skipping your goals just to spend every waking hour with her, she feels the shift. What once was admiration turns into irritation. Why? Because she doesn't want to be your world, she wants to be part of a man who has a world already built. Neglecting your purpose also creates resentment. When you drop your mission to revolve around her, you silently begin to blame her for your lack of progress. You start thinking, I could have been further ahead if I wasn't tied down. But the truth is, it's not her fault, it's yours. You chose comfort over calling. You chose distraction over destiny. And resentment grows because deep down you know you betrayed yourself. A man's purpose is his foundation. Without it, you can't lead. Without it, you can't provide stability. Without it, you can't inspire. Women follow men who know where they're going, not men waiting for someone else to give them direction. If you don't have a vision, you will be consumed by someone else's vision. And if you neglect your purpose, you'll find yourself drifting, confused, insecure, and easy to manipulate. Now here's the truth. Pursuing your purpose requires sacrifice. You won't always have time for everything. You'll have to say no to some comfort, some distractions, even some relationships. And yes, sometimes women will test that. They'll ask for more of your time, they'll want more attention, they'll want to see if you're willing to drop your mission for them. And this is where many men fail. They think sacrificing their goals proves love. But it doesn't. It proves weakness. Because real love thrives when a man is walking in strength, discipline, and direction, not when he abandons everything for validation. You have to understand something. Women are not attracted to men who put them above their mission. They may enjoy the attention for a season, but over time it breeds contempt. Why? Because if you don't respect your own calling, why should she respect you? The man who neglects his purpose becomes needy, clingy, and desperate for approval. But the man who honors his calling becomes confident, strong, and magnetic. Your purpose doesn't just impact you, it impacts the world. When you neglect it, you rob not only yourself, but everyone connected to your gift. There are people who need your vision, your ideas, your leadership. There are lives waiting to be changed by what you build. And when you trade that for temporary comfort, you leave behind a legacy of regret. So what does it mean to live with purpose? It means waking up with direction. It means setting goals that stretch you. It means refusing to let distractions pull you off course. It means committing to mastery in your craft, your career, your calling. It means understanding that your purpose is not optional, it's essential. Every great man in history was defined by his purpose. Builders, leaders, innovators, warriors, they didn't become great by chasing approval. They became great by dedicating themselves to something bigger than themselves. And when women came into their lives, they came alongside that mission, not in place of it. Let me make this clear. If you want lasting respect, never put a woman above your purpose. Love her, honor her, support her, but never abandon your mission for her. Because when you stay on your path, when you keep growing, when you keep building, you not only become the man she respects, you become the man she's proud to walk beside. If you neglect your purpose, you lose yourself. But if you honor your purpose, everything else aligns. You attract better relationships, you build stronger foundations, and you live with fulfillment instead of regret. Never neglect your purpose. Because your purpose is not just about success, it's about legacy. It's about becoming the man you were created to be. And when you commit to that, you'll never have to chase respect, love, or validation. It will chase you. Never settle for less than respect. Respect is the foundation of every healthy relationship. Without it, love is shallow, attraction is temporary, and commitment is fragile. As a man, the biggest mistake you can ever make with a woman is settling for less than respect. Because once you compromise on respect, you compromise on everything: your authority, your influence, your peace, and your identity. Love without respect is an illusion. A woman can tell you she loves you, but if she disrespects you consistently, what she is offering is not love, it's dependency, convenience, or comfort. Respect is the proof of love. Respect is the currency that validates affection. And when you accept anything less, you trade your birthright as a man for temporary emotional comfort. Now, let's get real. Some men are so afraid of being alone that they tolerate disrespect just to keep a woman around. They think it's better to have her even if she doesn't treat me right than to lose her altogether. That's weakness. Because the moment you accept disrespect, you're teaching her how to treat you. You're telling her, you can dishonor me and I will still stay. And once that line is crossed, it's almost impossible to go back. Respect isn't just about how she talks to you, it's about how she views you. Does she value your opinion? Does she listen when you speak? Does she honor your time and your standards? Or does she ignore your boundaries, dismiss your voice, and belittle your effort? These are the questions men must ask themselves honestly. Because if a woman doesn't respect you, the relationship has no foundation, no matter how much passion or attraction you feel. And let me tell you something, respect is not demanded, it's earned. You can't scream your way into being respected. You can't manipulate your way into honor. Respect comes from alignment, your words and your actions lining up. Respect comes when you live with discipline, integrity, and confidence. A man who knows his worth never has to beg for respect because he already commands it through the way he carries himself. But here's the mistake men make. They confuse tolerance with respect. A woman staying with you doesn't mean she respects you. A woman saying, "I love you," doesn't mean she respects you. Respect is shown in action. If she rolls her eyes when you speak, if she mocks your dreams, if she dismisses your boundaries, if she treats you as an accessory rather than a leader, that's not respect. And if you settle for that, you're signing up for misery. Respect is not optional. It's non-negotiable. A man without respect is like a king without a crown. You may still have the title, but you've lost the authority. And once you lose that authority, the relationship becomes a battlefield of resentment, frustration, and quiet bitterness. Now listen, respect doesn't mean she agrees with you on everything. It doesn't mean she worships you or never challenges you. Real respect means she honors your role, your effort, and your value, even when she disagrees. It means she sees you as a man worthy of following, not a boy she has to control. Men often think being nice is the way to earn respect. They think if they bend over backwards, if they sacrifice all their needs, if they tolerate everything, then she'll love them more. Wrong. That doesn't breed respect, it breeds contempt. Respect is not born out of weakness, it's born out of strength. Women respect men who stand firm, who set boundaries, who walk in purpose, and who refuse to compromise their dignity for temporary affection. If you want respect, you must first respect yourself. You can't allow yourself to live beneath your standards and then expect her to rise above them. If you don't honor your own boundaries, no one else will. If you don't value your time, no one else will. If you don't protect your energy, no one else will. Respect begins with how you treat yourself. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, people either rise to meet it or they remove themselves from your life. Here's the hard truth. If a woman refuses to respect you, you must be willing to walk away. Because staying in a disrespectful relationship is not love, it's self-betrayal. A man who fears being alone more than being disrespected has already lost. Loneliness is painful, but it builds strength. Disrespect is poison, and it destroys your soul. Choose strength over poison. Choose dignity over desperation. When you settle for less than respect, you shrink. You start second-guessing yourself. You lose confidence. You silence your voice. You become a shadow of who you were created to be. But when you demand respect not with arrogance, but with discipline and integrity, you grow. You stand taller. You speak with authority. You attract better relationships. You build a legacy that others admire. Respect is the fuel that keeps love alive. Without it, love runs out of oxygen and dies. But with it, relationships thrive, even through storms. Respect keeps the bond strong, the admiration alive, and the trust unshakable. So never settle. Never tolerate disrespect. Never compromise your standards just to keep someone who doesn't honor you. Because the moment you do, you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, you lose everything. Stand firm. in who you are. Live with integrity. Walk in your purpose. And if someone cannot respect that, let them go. Because the right woman, the one who is truly meant to walk with you, will not only love you, she will respect you deeply. And that, my brothers, is the only kind of relationship worth building. Never settle for less than respect. Because respect is not just what you want, it's what you deserve.